Hi everyone. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Zak from Nigel Frank, D365 or F&O slash Power Apps, anything in D365 space. If you want to learn how to get hired or whom to hire, what kind of tools that recruiters are using to find the right candidates, or what do you need to put yourself in place to be hired. So those are the things I've discussed with Zak here. So hope this helps to you guys. So thank you for watching. Hi, welcome to Unwinding Opportunities with me, Ragnar. In this series, I'm talking with industry professionals on their career journeys and gain some valuable insights into their current roles and how they got there. The goal is not to just listen, but also to soak up some inspiration, positivity regarding setting goals and making progress in our own careers. Hope this helps you guys. So let's jump into it, and thanks for listening to Unwinding Opportunities. Today I have Zak Marklew with me. I've been working with Zak for quite a few years now. He helped me with a lot of F&O candidates to hire, but also even he helped me with finding some jobs for myself in D365 space. He's from Nigel Frank. He's a senior vice president for the Microsoft division. So I would like to introduce Zak. So hi, Zak. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me, Ragnar. It's a pleasure to see you again. It's been some time.
Zak, I was thinking, what would be what I'm interested in this thing is the Unwinding Opportunities is mostly talking to recruiters, managers, and others about finding the right candidates for the right roles, but also from talking to you and working with you before, one of the key things I'm interested in is how are you helping the managers on the other side on finding what they need for that role or requirements that they have. So how do you typically collaborate with your end clients like CFOs, CTOs, IT managers? So can you give us a brief on how does it work for you and what is your role in that aspect?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a really valid question, and it's funny enough, it's one I get asked quite a bit by a number of organizations. How have you helped our competition out, basically? So I think the key thing is you've got to really understand the pain points of the business, really understand where they're struggling before you can actually build a solution for them. So the conversations we're having with, as you alluded to, CFOs, CTOs, VPs of IT, whatever the role may be, is really understanding how they envision this person who is going to be joining them to add value to their business. Where are they struggling right now, and how this person can add astronomical amounts of change to their whole team, the business itself, and obviously for their vision across the next kind of 3 to 5 years. So we build an action plan with these set individuals after understanding the areas of concern, if you may call it. We understand timelines, what their current resource plans are today, who they're using right now. Are they using a blended approach, using a partner, contractors, and have their own direct team? And then we can obviously build a solution to identify this right talent for them thereafter. So I don't know if that answers your question in brief, but I think that gives a very quick kind of high 10,000 foot elevation of what we would do there.
No, it does. I mean, the key thing here was working with IT managers, basically you go by the requirements, but when you work at a different next level with finance or CFOs in terms of VPs and stuff, they are more interested in solving the problems, right? So, so aligning with that, what kind of, when you engage with these clients, right? What strategies do you employ? Usually I know I work with recruiters sometimes, but I worked with you differently compared to the recruiters. So I'm trying to gauge that with how do people reach out to you? What would be the strategies that you are having to utilize to gather these requirements?
When you say that, you mean gathering the requirements from the customer, you mean, or from the candidate side? Sorry.
From the customers, mostly because candidate side, you can identify whom you need, but getting the customer piece is what I'm curious, because a lot of the times the job description has completely nothing to do with the job at some situations. So I'm trying to understand in that aspect.
Yeah, no, that's such a true point. And I was actually talking to a customer the other week about, this job description seems more of a checklist as opposed to, anything that they really need. So I do find that a lot of companies do put job descriptions together just because they have to have a job description put together to comply with, the HR regulations that they're requesting and the internal processes and, from their side, as well as obviously they have to potentially post the role on their own websites for internal applicants to apply for too. So, when I see these job descriptions, I do see them sometimes like a nice to have, but it's really important for me specifically is not only to be conversing with the said hiring manager about the role, but also people that are going to be working with the individual joining the company, understanding what they want this person to do in order to add value to them. Because ultimately, yes, the hiring manager is going to be there for their day-to-day aspects, but the people who they're going to be working with, they're also equally, maybe even more important to help kind of deploy the right description for the right person. So, what I would like to do is kind of gather what I call an intake call, where we speak with several stakeholders internally, and we have a conversation, yes, about the job description, but we ensure that every voice is heard on that intake call with the people that this individual will be working with to make sure that we kind of build a bigger job description behind the scenes for us all to, really work towards and find that right talent. Because it's not just about, for us, it's not just about finding a good resume that matches with the job description. It's about finding a good candidate. Anybody can find a good resume, but is the candidate that is the resume of actually as strong as their resume depicts? So, we need to understand all those other softer skills and the cultural match to be able to find that right blend at the end for the business.
No, that's great. I understand. Like, I remember, like, when I had to build, there are certain set of things as you're hiring, you need to follow the HR guidelines, right? Like, come up with a job description, come up with certain things. And sometimes you're forced, you kind of put something on there just as a template. But when you actually talk to the people, you realize, like, oh, this is nothing to do with the job description. It has way more things that are missing.
No, you're totally right, especially when it comes to more of the solution architecture roles out there in the marketplace. Are we looking for somebody more of a technical blend as opposed to functional blend, or vice versa? Breaking it down even more, like somebody from a supply chain background, do they need to have MRP experience, MES experience, or is it just a generic SCM person? There's so many intricacies that you can't really tell from a job description. So that's why I say building a conversation with several stakeholders is so important, so you can really understand the intricacies of what this person is going to be contributing to daily.
Okay. No, that's great. The other aspect I was thinking was mostly around like candidate side, right? So I know you have been part of the Dynamics community. You go to the Doug community and other aspects as well. So what's your process has been? What are you looking in terms of candidates when you're talking to people? Do you understand like, oh, this person could be a great fit for this, or you are open to meeting more people, and as you build your thing, you have this vision like, okay, when someone talks to you, you pick out this person and reach out to them. And more candidates, as I can see from the community and others. So how has that been for you, meeting new clients, and where are you finding these people other than LinkedIn?
Firstly, you are right. Like I am a big part of the Dynamics user group, especially here in Tampa. I recently attended the Southeast regional meetup in Atlanta this week, which was tremendous. So, definitely want to give a shout out to the Doug community there. And recently was fortunate enough to go to the community summit in Charlotte, which was amazing too. So, in regards to meeting, customers' requirements for candidates and how we go about finding candidates, LinkedIn's great. Like, I'm not going to lie, there's a fantastic, ability to find new people on there. But where the majority of my successes come is just from the combined years I've been recruiting in the sector, referrals from people I've worked with. That has been the best place for me. But in regards to how we find the role for somebody. Somebody's resume, it doesn't necessarily paint 1,000 words. I think it's really important to know the person, understand where their strengths are outside of what their resume, dictates. And then once we understand the person from speaking to them for a period of time or over years, whatever it may be, when that right opportunity comes about, there is nothing more than I love that after I've spoken to someone for, X period of time, is being able to mirror that dream opportunity for them. I love that. I don't want to force a round peg into a square hole. I want to make sure that match is there. And, Ragnar, I've worked with you, and, it's very important. Not only do we mirror, what your attributes and skills are to the customer, but it's also culturally. We need to ensure that it's right for you to be there as a full-time employee for the future. That's what we really want. So I think that answers your question. But
no, I
there's
kind
no
of
secret
made the question.
But no, it's a really interesting one. I think for those hiring managers out there trying to find candidates, I think it's definitely a great opportunity where you can work and liaise with fantastic recruitment companies out there. But it's really key that you're working with recruiters that understand the marketplace and the product they recruit for. Otherwise, they won't really understand the intricacies of your pain points and the points where the candidate has strengths to fix those pain points. So make sure you do work with somebody who is a reputable resource that can really add value into the community and your business.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and the other thing also I was thinking was, when I worked in a certain company, I had our own HR resource. We have our own recruitment team, but still we kind of reached out to other agencies, right? So how does that work for you? I think how do they work with Nigel Frank, right? So because it's never an internal. I've seen so many companies, even the ones I've joined, it was never through an internal resource. I've always gone through some other third-party recruiting company like Nigel Frank and others. So how does that work? Can you give some insight so if anyone's watching, they can understand how to reach out and work with you guys?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. Nigel Frank, we really do enjoy working with HR teams. What I always say is it's so important to have a relationship not only with the hiring manager who's making the end decision on hiring the individual, but ensuring you have a great relationship with the HR team too. We need to be working with HR teams, not against them. So when I interact with customers, I really want to ensure I've got the buy-in from not only the hiring team, but also from the HR department. And what the end goal is for that business is finding the best candidate for them. So we don't want to be working against the HR team. And a lot of people in the ecosystem think that recruitment agencies are trying to work against HR. We're really not. We want to work with you to make sure we're finding the right person for the business. And whether you find that person or the recruitment agency finds that person, the end goal is to have everybody win and get the right talent in place. So, no, I personally enjoy working with HR teams. In my 16 years in the recruiting world within the ecosystem, I've always advocated to work in parallel with the hiring manager and the HR representative to ensure a smooth, harmonious, process for everybody there. No, for sure.
No, I agree with you. One of the things that I had to do when we were trying to hire was, most of the times people think when you want to hire someone, you have a lot of time, but it's very rare. In Europe, it's a different story. In Europe, you get 3-month lead time. So you have enough time to find a resource. Even when someone leaves, there is a long time. But in US, it's mostly, even some other countries too, it's mostly 2-week notice. And within 2 weeks, someone's gone from a very high effective role that their role is very key to the business running. So in those cases, sometimes you cannot, because your internal HR resource is trying to help our overall business. They are not specifying just to F&O, right? So in that cases, I had to reach out to my HR to reach out to other agencies. And through some reason, somehow, that's how we kind of met as well. So I think a lot of companies have to take that initiative to, I know it feels counterintuitive for some managers to say, hey, can you reach recruiting agents? to a recruiter from inside the company. But I think a lot of companies don't realize the expedition, like the process gets much faster. You can find a candidate a bit sooner. And I know it's a bit more money sometimes, but let's say I have someone I need within 3 weeks. Instead of waiting 3 months, I would be paying less than 3 months salary to a recruiting company to find a candidate within a month or so, right? So you kind of outweigh what you need. So in those cases,
you've done the selling for me. So no, thanks for the recruitment shout out there. But no, I definitely agree. Like the Dynamics or D365 ecosystem is so small, so it's more niche or niche than anything you could imagine. So if you want speed to getting somebody onboarded, definitely work with someone like a Nigel Frank to find that dedicated resource for you. Even on the subcontractor staff augmentation side, we do work with enterprise-sized customers that do still like to get HR involved, and we're more than happy to do this. And I think as an HR business unit and a hiring manager team, let's just make sure we're working as a tripod to ultimately get the end goal, for everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the other thing is also like, I'm just speaking because I was thinking this through. Why would I want to talk to you? And I had to come up with my own understanding, right? So I worked with you guys. So Nigel Frank has been helpful to me and some other friends of mine who are managers and stuff. So it's great to see that when someone needs someone urgent, like sometimes I get calls like, hey, do you know someone who can start as a contractor or something with tomorrow or day after tomorrow? I'm like, I don't know how that works. But the other question I was thinking was, so what kind of primary roles are you guys working? Are you open? Are you doing both contract and full-time? How's that market has been for you, and what's your core interest maybe?
No, that's a really great question. And the demand has shifted over the last 12 months. We have seen a lot of budgets become more constrained, throughout 2023, especially during the summer period. It was a little bit of a lull for many people. I'm sure, partners in the ecosystem can attest to that, and end customers in the ecosystem can attest to, budget constraints. So although the end goal may be to hire a full-time resource, we've seen a massive shift to bring subcontractors on through staff augmentation to come and fulfill the need to get a project completed. So Nigel Frank, we do provide, yes, full-time direct hires within that D365 and Dynamics community, but also we do have a fantastic ability to supply subcontractors for specific projects or specific lengths of time. That is something we can definitely help with too. But in regards to roles, you asked me there. I don't know. It's very cyclical. It's very much an ecosystem that does come back full 360. Developers will be needed at one point and not needed another. Functional consultants at one point and not another, etc., etc. I think as we move further away from the COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen a big demand for that supply chain piece, to increase and enhance efficiencies around the whole supply chain aspect. I do believe that, due to the cost of, coding, the need for developers has moved to being a strong contract market as opposed to full-time needs. And Microsoft have really pushed that no-code, low-code environment, which is obviously altering the development market space. And I'm seeing a lot of contract demand there. But we're seeing a lot of organizations in the community looking for your solution architects. That is definitely a hot place right now. Strong functional consultants across the finance and supply chain space. And then ultimately, we're seeing a big demand, as everybody's talking about, at the moment for strong Power Automate, Power Platform, Power BI folks within the community, and then who knows what's going to happen with AI? AI is going to be a big change for the whole marketplace across the entire D365 ecosystem and other publishers out in the marketplace. So I'm sure we're going to see some demand there. I was at a user group meetup this week, as I alluded to earlier, and the whole talk around Fabric and One Lake and everything like this has been extremely interesting, and I'm sure that's going to really spark some demand in the coming months too.
No, I agree. I think one of the key things I'm looking forward to the whole AI thing is, especially it's going to be more towards Microsoft is being very aggressive in reducing the prices. They keep saying 130,000 customers, but it's fairly less compared to the overall number. But as they reduce the pricing structure in trying to create recently in the new what is it? The OpenAI Dev Day, I noticed that they are enabling you to have GPTs you can create on your own, which is very straightforward. It's like you said, no code, low code. In those instances, I feel like what's going to happen is you need people who can think, you need people who can create stuff out of low code, no code using AI. You don't need someone who know how to do it. You need someone who can think. So I feel like I'm trying to push my friends and my circle around coming towards the solutioning aspect of it, because that's where the market might be going forward. But let's see how it goes. You never know.
Who knows? Honestly, like I know there's so much still in preview mode, so it's still very very early on. So I think keep an eye out over the next couple of months. I think we've got is it the Microsoft Ignite conference next week?
Yeah, Ignite.
So I think there's going to be some really interesting stuff coming out there around AI and what Microsoft's doing and releasing, and what's going to be able to come into public view, not just preview mode. So yeah.
No, previously, I remember if you need to do some development through Ignite or through OpenAI, you had to have like a membership to get into these things, to have access to the material. But now they're all on GitHub. They're all open source. So you just sign up with your personal email and you get access to all of this for you to practice. And that's one of the things I'm doing and building like an example and videos to go forward. It's something that interests me, but I feel like that's where we're going to end up. On the other side, I was just also thinking in terms of full-time, right? One of the key things I'm interested is, so the full-time market rate is going high and low. So people are still trying to, I see job market, I see job postings, and I see like the rates for like even a functional consultants are in like 2019 rates. So how do you discuss that with your like CTO, CFO, like hiring people, managers, right? How has that been for you? And have you seen that the trend is slowly changing? What is your comment on that?
You mean in regards from hiring full-time people to contract people?
No, in full-time, right? I see full-time rates. The rates are still at 2019 kind of salary ranges. And I just feel like someone needs to educate the companies to change that brackets, right? Because have you had such discussions ever before? How has that been for you?
It's an interesting topic. And, I think as we look into it, the marketplace is ever changing, and we are having to, ensure that people are paid fairly. I'm all about that. But the issue I find is the ecosystem is so small. There's a talent deficit in the Dynamics 365 marketplace. Like if you aren't aware of that, you're hearing it first on Ragnar's podcast here. But there is a talent deficit in the ecosystem today. So with that in mind, salaries, they are having to increase to attract a candidate from company A to company B, and ultimately we are having to alter what customers are needing to pay for talent. Otherwise, the work is not going to be done. There's going to be delays, which ultimately is going to jeopardize the business if they don't have that talent in play today. But no, salaries, I have seen salaries change. Throughout the pandemic, salaries did increase. They really did. Now they're coming back down again. As you allude to, they're back down to that 2019, 2020 price point. But I think there is going to be a shift again in salaries. I really do. Going into the new year, as budgets hopefully start to get a little bit more loose and open with organizations to spend money to bring talent on board. The issue I find is that if you're giving a candidate, a 3 to 5% pay raise from where they are today, there is a huge risk element for you as the potential new company of their current employer offering a counter offer, and then you don't find the talent there. So you're back to square one. You've wasted a lot of interview time. So, I really do feel that we are going to have to become more competitive in the marketplace to attract people, not only from the challenge ahead for the individual working with the latest and greatest technology, but also we're going to have to advance the financial element to attract talent to come to people. One of the things that we as an organization do provide is we have a fantastic sister company of ours called Rbuild, which is a business unit, which is a hire, train, deploy model. So we will take people from competing publishers, we will cross-train them, certify them, put them through capstone projects to ensure they just don't have the certification, they actually know how to talk to stakeholders, run a project, be successful, and then we'll outsource them back to the market. So we're really trying to fix that talent deficit in the marketplace through our Rbuild business unit today, which has been extremely successful over the last kind of 3 to 5 years.
Okay, great. And the other thing I was also curious was, a lot of times I get through interviews or I get requested interviews. How many interviews do you think is a good time to get a candidate? Because sometimes some people want 5 interviews, right? 6 interviews. And I was just like, can't you just combine them? What have you seen? And because that's kind of a deterrent for even a candidate sometimes, because I'm giving my time out of like my job or whatever, right? So do you have any tips, suggestions on what are the good number of hours or number of interviews?
There's no magic number, but all I would say is the fewer interviews, the more chance there is of you hiring that candidate. As you alluded to there, Ragnar, you have your day job to attend to. So unless you're unemployed and you have astronomical amounts of free time, then you want to make sure these interview processes are condensed as much as possible. My advice for the hiring businesses out there is, if you do want to have multiple stakeholders involved in an interview, make sure you're kind of piggybacking interviews with more people in one call, as opposed to having multiple conversations across a 2-3 week time frame. I would say the optimal number is 2 interviews these days. Maybe you can stretch it to a 3rd interview as kind of the final sign-off, but anything more than 3 is unfortunately not a competitive advantage to yourself in the marketplace. I would make sure you're condensing those as much as possible. And obviously, as we've become more, aware of being able to work remotely, I think if you can keep the interviews to being virtual, that's also going to expedite things as well. Keeping a virtual interview process and trying to keep it to 2, maybe 3 is going to be optimal for you as a hiring team to be able to get these people onboarded.
Yeah. Now, I think 3 would be the max number, I would think too, because I actually feel like the one with the most requirements for a team, like if I'm a hiring manager and someone's going to work for me for a certain role, I want to be the first one to pass them through to make sure they even qualified for the job before I even push it to the next candidate. I've noticed so many times when they do multiple interviews across 5 days, within a whole 1 week, they do like 3-4 interviews. By the time you did those interviews, the candidate, you don't know whose value to listen to. But also on the other hand, 1 week is a long time nowadays because they are getting interviews. Sometimes a good candidate gets interviews within a week. Like I had friends and people who got jobs within a week of the interview. So your decision-making time has to be quick as well. So you don't want to spread the decision-making time based on scheduling the interview with certain people within the company.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And, obviously for, those subcontractor interviews, I would say 1 interview is sufficient. You can run through a deep dive of the, technicalities you're looking for. It doesn't necessarily need to be that cultural fit. Contractors there to get a job done. But obviously on the direct hire, as you allude to, we don't want candidates to get what I like to call interview burnout. If they're doing multiple interviews, they're going to get exhausted. Their brain waves are going to decrease, and thus they may opt for another company that's moving a lot faster than somebody else. Yeah,
and also I heard from few people, and I also learned that sometimes when you do 4 interviews, and you still don't come back to the response, you kind of lose that candidate for life in a way. Like there are certain companies who call me, I get calls from every time, and I just tell the recruiter on their face, like, I will not work with that company because sometimes it's not even the company. That company has really good candidates and friends of mine who work within, but within that structure, right, you need to understand, like, why do you want to waste 5 hours of someone's time when you haven't decided if he's a good candidate or not, right? 5 hours is a lot of time if you do 5 interviews. So
I totally agree. Yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head there, Ragnar. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, like you just mentioned about remote, right? So how's the market has been? I see a lot of hybrid and going back to work, but I still feel like remote is the best way to find the candidates. As you said, there's a scarcity in the talent pool, right? So how's the market has been? What are you looking at?
So obviously throughout the pandemic, 90% of things were remote. And we adopted a mentality where we could work remotely, and that worked really well. As we move further away from the pandemic, companies are requesting or requiring individuals, especially your functional resources, to be in the office more frequently than not. So they're adopting a kind of 3 in, 2 remote, mentality. For technical resources, we are still seeing more of a flexible environment as opposed to functional resources where we are seeing that hybrid model. I think the biggest thing I always talk to customers about is, are you looking for talent or are you looking for geography? Because you can find somebody who is next door to your office, but are they actually going to be the best candidate to give you the best results you need as an organization? So I've seen a lot of companies really take that message on board, and they're saying, actually, we want a blended approach. We do. So the mentality they are shifting towards is more of we are content with somebody coming into the office for, say, 3-4 days per month. And they will, most of the time help with paying for hotel costs, flight costs, whatever it may be. And that is the model we're seeing a lot of companies adopt today within the Microsoft ecosystem. So I do honestly think that we cannot move into a mentality where we're accepting just geography for lack of talent. We need to ensure talent is still there. Otherwise, it's not going to be innovative for the Microsoft ecosystem. We need to be moving Microsoft further forward through, talent bringing, things to apparency of everybody. So, I definitely think that blended approach is nice, but in the Microsoft world, I think it's going to be really tough to demand a 5-day-a-week on site, unless it's obviously, maybe some financial services businesses where you can't work remote, you have to be there, security risks, etc. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing in today's trends.
Yeah. In SCM, I'm okay too, because sometimes in warehouse and other management aspects, you need someone like that. But I can tell you, even me coming from Boston, it's a big metropolitan. You would think you would find a candidate easily in Boston area, but it was very tough for us to find anyone, right? So we had to stretch, at least we were stretching till New York, New Jersey. I think our first approach was kind of bad to say, let's concentrate only on Boston for a week or 2. Instead, we should have done let's do Northeast or at least stretch till New York, New Jersey and stuff. So that way you have a bigger pool. And then even if you need someone to come in, it's a few hour drive. They can come for a few days, or you schedule something with them to plan an intro or something in the first week to join the team and meet. But yeah, I think that was one of the mistakes I've done, is wait for more than the time that we needed. If we had stretched, because at the end of the day, we hired someone from New Jersey, right? So they were few hours away, but we could have found them 2 weeks early if we did the change. No,
so you're totally right. And I think a lot of companies, they are opening themselves up to this more of a hybrid 1 week per month mentality, as I alluded to. But I think as long as the candidate is in the same time zone, then I think that's really going to help too. Obviously, if you're having somebody on the West Coast work on East Coast client hours, those early mornings will start to wear on you. But I think as long as you have a harmonious time zone and candidates are happy to come in 1 week a month or whatever it may be, then I think we're going to get the best talent for the market and not just focus on that geographical aspect as we've been talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I just feel like sometimes I want to, personally myself, I moved out of Boston and I'm trying to figure out how to find jobs, but I'm between Central and Eastern time zone. And as a candidate as well, sometimes you have to be flexible too, sometimes to see at least Central and Eastern works pretty much okay,
Yeah.
1 hour
Yeah.
difference, but it expands your horizon. You get a job slightly more where you can find. So as a candidate as well, you should be slightly flexible. And in terms of travel as well, companies have been very good recently. They are helping to not make them travel even for no reason, right? You need to travel when there is a requirement, when there is a special need as an initiation of the project or the QA stages where you can get things done faster. But I feel like I'm all in for remote, to be honest. I am against even hybrid nowadays because what I feel is people are much more efficient from home. But it's all on the candidate because everyone has evolved into this, and then slightly now it's a reverse psychology. Trying to make them bringing to the office is going to be a bit tough, in my opinion. But let's see how it goes.
No, I totally agree with you. People have got used to the whole working from home environment. They've got great office setups. They've got a great schedule going, and I think it's really working for a lot of organizations out there. Yeah.
Okay, for the last one, I was thinking before we leave, I know, thank you for your time today, but I was really interested in figuring it out. So who do you think are the right people to reach out to you? What are your suggestions for both hiring managers as well as clients? So if you can end with a good closing note and some tips to both hiring managers and clients, that would be great.
Could you just say that again? Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I was thinking as you're ending this, so I was more interested in finding out what are your tips for both hiring managers and the clients, because any tips for them to how they should approach, but also what can they do to reach you? Do you want them to reach you only when there is a requirement for a job, or they can just say hi and build that introduction because you never know when you need a client, right?
Yeah. No. Okay. Good question. I think firstly, I don't think that we should be liaising with customers or candidates just when they're looking for a job or when they're looking to hire somebody. Build a relationship with your recruiter. I personally have several great relationships with candidates and with hiring managers. I've made friends with a lot of them now. So I think it's really important to converse with them, not just when you're looking to hire or when you're looking for a new role, but have a frequent cadence with these individuals. And I think, with regards to a good wrap-up note here, I think with regards to how I would love to interact with the hiring community and candidate community, be open. Would love to understand those pain points honestly and not just look at the job description as we talked about at the beginning of the conversation. Let's try and get as many stakeholders as we possibly can who are going to be, within the team with this person you're trying to hire, and let us talk to them to discuss what the overall picture looks like for the business with this person joining. I always love to just talk to customers about, the market itself. I'm speaking to so many different customers out there, and I would love to share, obviously confidentially, what we're all kind of discussing about, so we can really advance the community as a whole. But no, I think if you are looking to hire, reach out for a conversation. Would love to know how we can assist, whether it's finding those direct hires or subcontractors for specific projects. And for candidates out there, have a conversation. Obviously you might not be looking today, but we might be able to find that dream job for you tomorrow. So yeah, hopefully that's a good wrap up to it. But no, it's been a great catch up right now, for sure.
No, thank you so much for your time. And I would just say the same thing to both hiring managers and candidates is I had a great time working with Zak and few of his team members. So he's always on call whenever you need him. You can message him and he's always on prompt as well. So that's a great thing I like about you, because usually I reach out to you and say something casually like, hey, I'm looking for a certain role or something. And then you somehow figure out a thing that matches to either me or my friends. So that's a great thing, good relationship I have with you. And on the other end, I would say, yeah, I think everyone should always connect and reach out when you can, because we are all in the same community. We are all going to meet each other one or the other day. So start with a small hi on LinkedIn or somewhere. So I'll put the LinkedIn link for Zak and Nigel Frank in the notes here. But as an ending note, what I would say is thank you so much, Zak. Appreciate your time. And then everyone, please look for Zak and Nigel Frank, and then we'll meet on the next episode. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's great to catch up with you again. And yeah, when I'm up northeast again, let's definitely catch up for a coffee or a lunch.
Or we'll do in-person podcast next time.
Perfect. Yeah, in-person podcast. There we go. I would love that one.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you so much right now.
Thank you.